Sylvester Stallone is a known conservative, while his series Tulsa King is positively anti-woke. Perhaps that is why cancel pigs are so eager to take him down and the industry trades so keen to signal boost them. Missing the mark on what the real story should be, to the extent that there even is a story here. Deadline Hollywood ran the April 8th scoop. Tulsa King casting agency quits after Sylvester Stallone accused of disparaging background actors. Oh no, that sounds bad. What a horrid man Stallone must be. Let's see what the story proper says. An Atlanta-based casting company has left Tulsa King in the wake of allegations. Allegations, huh? Bring on the Me Too associations. That Sylvester Stallone and one of the directors had disparaged some background actors who were working on the Paramount Plus drama. Rose Locke Casting of Atlanta, so that would be the accuser here, was hired to find actors ages 18 and over for the second season of the Taylor Sheridan series. But apparently, the working conditions on Tulsa King soon became foddered on a private Facebook page for Atlanta-based background actors. Stallone and an unnamed director were accused of calling some of the extras ugly, tub of lard, and fat guy with a cane. The recipient of the latter comment apparently said later that it hurt his soul to hear himself described that way on set. For which, if this indeed is true, I would not blame him. I mean, imagine being all excited to get hired as an background extra, for Stallone no less, whom he might even be a fan of, only to overhear Sly himself refer to him as an ugly lord of fat with a cane whom he evidently didn't want on set. That's gotta suck, and to be clear, none of this is his fault, nor any of the other extras whose level of beauty did not meet the minimum threshold of Stallone or the director of the episode in question. But let's move on with the story. Allegedly, Stallone then suggested that production bring in pretty young girls to be around me instead. Rose Locke Casting announced on its Facebook page Sunday that it was leaving the show. We wanted to send you an update on the happenings here in our casting world. We have chosen to part ways with Tulsa King. We will be finishing up next week and the 12th will be our last day. We send well wishes to whomever takes over the show. We thank all of you great background artists for your continued support, it read. In a separate comment that was shared among background extras on the private Facebook page, Locke urged her clients to reach out if they heard or experienced anything on Tulsa King's toxic set. Take note of that. Rose Locke Casting unilaterally declared the set as toxic, though there have been no other major complaints. If there were, they would have been listed in this article, where, surprise surprise, there are no further allegations. But that hasn't prevented cancel pig Rose Locke from trying to sniff them out, presumably so they can be exposed, like this whole story. That message, along with the complaints about Stallone's behavior, were shared in a public tweet Monday by writer Julie Benson, who is not associated with the Paramount Plus drama. Then there's a picture of this tweet from Julie Benson, which shares the accusations leveled against Stallone, and Benson is taking on Stallone directly, tagging him and asking him, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Beyond disappointed. I'm livid. Then the story continues, without any more specific allegations, but furthering the image of a toxic set. The accusations about the conduct on Tulsa King has already made the rounds among other Facebook pages for background actors. You know, the ones that the rest of the world call extras, such as the one run by D.D. McDaniel Simmons of South Carolina. Several groups are talking about what happened on the set of Tulsa King filming in Atlanta, she wrote. Yeah, that would be this story they're talking about. At first, I had hoped it was just a bad rumor started by one person who may have felt some type of way, but there have been countless people who were on set and have stated what they saw, how they were treated, etc. And yet, I don't hear any specifics. Sadly, Sly Stallone and crew made things miserable for the background artists, and many have said the set was completely unprofessional and a total mess. Although I have not personally worked with Rose Locke and CL Casting, I have great respect for them for pulling out of the project and looking out for their background artists. Well, that to me seems at best a bit misguided. To be clear, I have no further knowledge on this story than what is in this Deadline Hollywood piece, but based on what is here, Stallone and the director in question can perhaps, and at most, be accused of being blunt assholes. But the one who really screwed up here, the one who created the problem in the first place, would appear to have been Rose Locke Casting. Let's see why. For those unfamiliar with Tulsa King, Deadline Hollywood helpfully puts the synopsis. Tulsa King follows New York Mafia capo Dwight the General Manfredi, played by Stallone, just after he is released from prison after 25 years and is unceremoniously exiled by his boss to set up shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Realizing that his mob family may not have his best interest in mind, Dwight slowly builds a crew from a group of unlikely characters to help him establish a new criminal empire in a place that to him might as well be another planet. So, in other words, much like Lilyhammer, it's a fish-out-of-water story about an old-school gangster setting up shop in a new and weird, unfamiliar location. But he's gonna want to surrender himself with heavies who can do his bidding and hot chicks. Not too excessively ugly people or lordasses in need of using canes. Stallone's character might pass such people on the street, but he is unlikely to voluntarily spend time in places where such normies would venture. The important bit of information we strategically were not provided here was what was the setting for the scene where Stallone and the director were unhappy with fat people using canes as extras. Based on this article, we cannot say, but if they wanted hot chicks instead of them, that suggests it was somewhere where fat people with canes are unlikely to fare, or at the very least, be seen next to Stallone's character. I mean, imagine if Stallone's character is doing a high-flyer meeting in some members-only club for the rich and famous of the underworld. Hot chicks would fit right in that setting, but a fat guy with a cane, who probably looks poor to boot, would stick out like a sore thumb, and quite frankly ruin both the shot and the illusion. Every bit as much as an LA-based romantic comedy starring Jennifer Lopez would be if walking dead fentanyl zombies suddenly showed up in the background and took a dump on the street or something. Sure, a well-intended casting director might argue that it reflects the reality of many places in LA today, but it still might not be quite in keeping with the filmmaker's vision, and that, based on this description, is where Rose Locke Casting failed. They brought in background extras that didn't fit with what the makers of Tulsa King had in mind. Sure, Stallone and that director probably could have been a bit more diplomatic about it, but still, it's the casting agency that screwed up here, and the response of the woman ultimately responsible for this was to rage quit and seemingly trying to cancel Stallone by way of digging up even more horror stories. This reading of the situation is actually backed up in a follow-up piece in The Hollywood Reporter. That write-up recounts the same story that was in Deadline Hollywood, but adds some additional details, most crucially this. The director's name was not mentioned in the earlier referenced screenshot, yet Zisk, the episode's director and executive producer, denied the reports to TMZ, saying the extras were improperly cast. Zisk claims he told Locke, the casting director, that the extras were supposed to be young and hip, but the background actors who showed up were older. Zisk said he used the actors for the scene anyway, and that they were polite and did their jobs, but afterward told Locke that she'd need to submit photos of actors moving forward, leading to a dispute. That's the way I work, and everyone I know works that way in extras casting, Zisk reportedly told her. And rightfully so, I might add. Because based on this, it would appear that the method of Rose Locke is not to present pictures of background extras to the producer and director in advance, but just to bring out old, fat and infirm extras on set. What they asked for, and what the scene actually requires, be damned. Zisk is quite right here. That is not how extra casting is done, and if that's the method that this lady actually works with, then she needs to be banned from the industry because she simply can't be trusted to do her job. But I do think there is a non-zero chance that she actually might have gone out of her way to find the worst background extras possible in this case. Remember how I said Tulsa King is an anti-woke series in the intro? Well, it is.
You know what my pronoun is? Guess. Time's up.
Okay.
It, as in it, can't take this shit anymore.
If I were to speculate, I might think that Roselock might take issue with the anti-woke nature of Tulsa King, and that maybe, just maybe, she brought all of these misfits on set on purpose. Now, why would I think that? Well, for starters, she has one interest on LinkedIn, namely Bill Gates, and people with that one interest in isolation are generally not aligned with Stallone's worldview, the values pushed by Tulsa King, or the politics of Florida, the state that Sylvester Stallone is very publicly in the process of abandoning LA in favor of. To summarize, this entire story is framed all wrong. The problem here isn't that the Tulsa King set is toxic, but that the toxic casting director maybe deliberately miscast extras, and then went cancel pig on the production. That is the real story of what's going on here, and luckily, even many of the Hollywood types that comment on Deadline Hollywood see that. Of course, the comment section has some virtue signalers who swear off the show for good, and others accuse Stallone himself of being so ugly that he should just shut up about it. But others get exactly where Stallone is coming from. One Teresa Mills said, "I blame the casting company for not casting what was needed for the scene," and that of course is the true case here. I am a background extra with an agency and they look for specific types, weight, hair color, sometimes race, age for background to fit in specific scenes. Kudos to Stallone. And one Duddle W followed that up with, "Exactly. Stallone doesn't need ugly fat crippled people on his set unless they're being used for that purpose." Good job by Sly for calling them out. They deserved to be kicked off. Someone anonymous chimed in, "Actors, much like models, are hired based on looks. You shouldn't be all surprised when you're judged based on what you look. That being said, just hire other people, send the ones you don't like away, and get new ones. No need to be saying stuff like that in front of people. This should have been a private conversation." And that, of course, is exactly right. This is a complete non-story. The only reason any of us even know it is because cancel pigs messed up on the job and are trying to cancel Stallone and Tulsa King for it. By the way, Tulsa King is an awesome series. Check it out if you haven't seen it, and let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.